Southpaw Music Audio brings to you Going Back, a short story by Joe Wentz. Someone once said, if time travel were possible, would you take advantage of it or leave it alone? I myself have pondered this very question. And now, after years of wondering, it has now become possible to do. After saving my money for many years, I decided to go ahead and invest in a time travel program. Just hear me out on this one. You get one, and I mean one shot at going back in time. You can only go back to your teenage years. That's as far back as you can travel. But going forward is possible, but I just don't want to do that. So, with my deposit cleared, I was told that my leave date would be on my birthday. That's how they seem to operate with this company. By the way, their name is Simmons & Taylor Time Travel Agency. I found out about them through a social media search. So my big day had arrived, and I drove to the undisclosed location where the event would take place. As I was told in my final instructions by the chief operator, they were as follows. If you decide to interact with anyone, and you more than likely will, try not to say too much, as you are now altering time. From that moment on, your future is immediately different. Do not interfere with any law enforcement and do not get into any legal trouble. As more than likely, nobody is going to know the present day you. Also, you can't interact with your younger self. This would definitely spell disaster for the immediate future. Your current self, as well as your younger self, would die immediately. They asked me if I understood all of the rules, and of course, I agreed. What else was I going to say? I've already paid my money, so I'm definitely not backing out now. They strapped me in, and then all I could hear was a loud whistling sound, almost like a train. I kept my eyes closed as thunder and lightning filled the hangar. Within around 30 seconds, it was over. No more loud and insane, crazy noises. I slowly opened my eyes, and there I was. Standing right across from my former house. Not my parents' house, but my first house from my first marriage. Yes, I decided to go back to the year 1992. That was when I was married for the first time. Now, I had a huge obstacle in my way, my younger self. I remember what the rules were. But the hell with that. What are they going to do, come and get me? My whole objective is to save a life. My younger self was 22 years old, my current self is 52 years old. A whopping 30 years difference. But, I know what my younger self likes, so, maybe this wasn't going to be as hard as I thought, hopefully. The tough thing is, convincing my then wife to fall in love with my current self and leave my younger self. I had time, plenty of time. That's something that I now had enough of. We were in a small town back then, and I remembered the local grocery store. So I walked to the grocery store. It wasn't too awful bad, but still, it wore my ass out. Remember, I'm my current self. I got a job at the store and luckily found a room for rent right behind the store. I would work every day, except on weekends. It took a while to get those days off, but a grown adult is more likely to get that rather than a young punk, no offense to my younger self of course. I would see my then wife visit the store a few times a week. I knew when to talk to her because I remember some of those crazy arguments from back in the day. It's important to note here that I dyed my hair a different color and I had eventually got contacts. I knew exactly what to say to her. I already knew how to make her laugh and the things that she liked. This was almost too easy. A few years would pass as I finally now had a decent automobile. Nothing flashy, but reliable. I would occasionally drive past the house, mostly at night time. I could see inside the house pretty well because we never paid attention to the power bill back then. Then the day arrived. As she came into the store, I struck up another conversation with her. She was laughing as she playfully touched my arm from time to time. I asked her for her number and she gave it to me. Back then, the most popular phones were flip phones and they hadn't been out long. The internet was in its infancy and social media hadn't even been thought of yet. So no Facebook or Instagram. It was nice really. No emails to deal with, no crazy friends request. It was on a Wednesday night when she'd eventually call. I gathered from our conversation that my younger self was away at band practice. We talked for hours, a couple of times a week. Then, eventually, I asked if she wanted to come over. She agreed. We settled on a Friday night as my younger self had a gig to play with the band. That band didn't last long, but it was good enough for now. Of course, I carefully planned this ahead of time, but what happened is still anyone's guess at the time. She came over to my place. I introduced her to Mrs. Shanahan, the owner of the house. Mrs. Shanahan was around 80 years old, a very sweet woman. We went to my room, where we talked for quite a while. I sat beside her to see if she would be comfortable. Her body language seemed pretty good. I made a move. We kissed, then kissed some more. Then we got undressed. I fucked her the best that I could. Of course, I still remembered her favorite things in the bedroom. It was amazing. We would meet every third Friday. She'd come over and we just had amazing sex. The weird thing is, not that this isn't weird enough already, when I'd see my younger self and her in the grocery store together. I had to avoid eye contact with my younger self and not to cause any unnecessary attention. Another year would pass. She was now living with me at my place. My younger self was now crushed. This is just but one of the repercussions that happens when time is tampered with. Apparently, my younger self moved on with someone else. I didn't pay any attention because I'm concentrating on the current timeline. What was wild was, I had a whole different identity. It comes with a time travel package. My new name was Chuck Joseph. She thought the last name was ironic. I'll let you guess why. We decided that she would live with me. It was just easier. A lot less to deal with. She eventually got divorced from my younger self and now we could be together in public and not have to worry. But in a small town, people talk. And it was quickly starting to spread that I was a home wrecker. This wasn't good. I didn't need the attention. Customers would look at me differently, people didn't talk as nicely anymore. Then one evening, we decided to go out for dinner at one of our favorite places. As she waited for me outside the restaurant, I was still inside, paying the bill. She wanted a cigarette. I, of course, quit smoking some years ago, and it was awkward to see my younger self smoke. As I made my way outside, I heard a loud pop. Almost like a firecracker. Then, screaming and shouting. Someone yelled, "Get him quick." Then another loud pop. I would be in absolute horror. My then wife was dead. Shot in the head by one single bullet. Amongst the confusion, I looked across the road and there lay my younger self. Shot by an off-duty police officer. People were screaming, chaos had ensued. Within minutes, more police were on the scene. I was immediately questioned by an officer. How did I know her and what would cause this type of attack? Of course I knew why, but I had to play stupid. I had to go downtown to the police station and identify my then wife, which now was my mistress. Then, I had to identify my younger self. The only way that this was possible is because the cold, dark eyes of my younger self were closed. They let me go after 2 hours of questions. They eliminated me from any type of suspicious involvement because the divorce had been official for around 6 months. So now, I'm right back where I started. Alone, and nothing to gain. I'm stuck in this little town, with all of the locals still thinking that I'm a bad guy. What does my future hold now? Who knows? I have lost everything, again. I guess what they say is right, you can't cheat Father Time. It's a game that you'll lose every time.